There we go.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And we're live, but it's not really live. We're just recording.
Correct.
Well, JJ Virgin, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for agreeing to be part of Masters of Possibility. I think you're the 6th or 7th master of our 10 masters that we're interviewing. And I have to say that I'm probably more excited about this interview than any of the others.
All right, you're not just saying that, right?
No, I'm not, because I think that you're great. I saw you at Author 101 give a presentation, and I was riveted. And I actually met you and shook your hand, and I gave you a copy of my book, and you connected me to your agent, and she was very gracious. But she doesn't do young adult fiction, which I'm a writer as well. So anyway, you were very kind, and I appreciate that. So. After having studied a little bit about you and hearing your story and then learning more about you, that's why I was so excited about this. So what we have done for all the other masters, instead of us going through Wikipedia and looking all this stuff up and coming up with some intro that might actually make mistakes, we thought we'd just have you introduce yourself to our audience. And we're your audience, by the way.
Well, we're working on my new podcast interview. So I'll do my new podcast interview as if I was that person. Because what we decided to do is hey, here's JJ Virgin. She's a 4-time New York Times bestselling author, celebrity nutrition and fitness expert, TV host, formerly on Dr. Phil, TLC's Freaky Eaters. And then it was going to be a big it's like there's all that stuff. But to me, what's really important is being a warrior mom, helping my son when he was a victim of a hit and run and literally left for dead in the street, come back to being better than before, despite all the odds. And then showing people that mindset actually can work in everything you do, whether it's taking back your health or being the CEO of your family and their health, or running a successful business. So I think it all comes into play, and all those accomplishments all came from having the right mindset in place early on.
Hence, you're a master in our eyes, anyway. So we have several questions for you, and we would like just to start a dialogue with them. And if any other questions jump up from that, then Jeff or Fletch will jump in and ask you. The first question is, what is your philosophy about your approach to achieving and sustaining good health?
So I believe we all need to go through our own personal discovery process. And that's where everyone starts to get confused, because it's like, should I do keto or intermittent fasting or vegan? And it's just all kind of, the answer to all of that is yes, maybe, no, I don't know. I think it all starts first with the decision. And when I queried my community last year, and this blew my mind. So as you would imagine, I have a community that's gluten-free and sugar-free. And, those are their things they struggle with. And so when I asked them if they weren't where they wanted to be in their health, why not? I was fully expecting, I couldn't give up the ice cream or the cheese or whatever. And the reality was, the overwhelming response to that question was, I don't feel worthy. And so it made me realize I've always started every single program that I do off with your big why and working on mindset, because I know that you can never outgrow that. But I think when we really start to think about what it means to be healthy, it first has to make that decision of what does that mean to you, and what's it going to do for your life, and how is it going to impact everything else in your life. And then little hinges swing big doors. So the challenge of what I see out there is that we make this decision coming from a place of self-hate and desperation, right? I need to lose 20 pounds. I suck. I'm ugly. I'm fat, blah, blah, blah. And we start that from that place, and you'll never succeed when you're going from that place. And if you start from a place of self-love and I'm worthy and I need to do these things so I can show up better for my family, so I can be a better partner, so I can be more confident in my business. And then you start putting in the small shifts that exponentially will swing that big door. And you just start bringing them in as a habit until they become one. Then all of this actually becomes pretty effortless.
Wow. So what do you think your what is considered about your approach unorthodox?
So early on, I've been doing this for forever. And when I very first started, the popular culture was to eat less, to lose weight, you had to eat less and exercise more. So you had to create this calorie deficit. And, you know, I was in graduate school and I had all these clients. I was one of the first personal trainers. And I'm noticing that what we're being taught in grad school is not working. And all the other people I was in school with were going on to be professors. So they weren't doing, I was really fortunate. I had this laboratory right in front of me of all of these clients, but I also knew that they would not continue to pay me to get no results. So what we were being taught in school wasn't working, and I had to figure out what was. And I was also personal training clients down at Gold's Gym in Venice. And, you know, I noted that what they were doing down there was exact opposite of what we were being taught in school. So I thought, well, what if everything we're being taught is wrong? And what really is going on here? So my whole premise was to throw out this whole idea of our body being a bank account, which is what the popular culture was back then, and to come from a point of your body is really a chemistry lab. And so while calories counted, where they came from and that impact counted more, but then there were other things at play, like the way you exercise. We were taught to do lots of aerobics. I realized that was actually making people worse. You know, that we needed to sleep more, that all these things back then, it was really cool to be overly stressed. And it was like, that's not helpful. So I went against all that. I was considered kind of a nut job for years. And now, lo and behold, this is now popular culture, is like, hey, it's not about calories. But that was very unorthodox at the time.
That's interesting. Kind of leads into the next question is, where did you get your training about health, just in general?
So I started when I was a teenager. I got very obsessed. You know, think about this. Like, imagine life without Google. And really back then, I was going to health food stores and studying labels and stuff, and reading magazines and getting a lot of wrong information. Midway through college, I kind of dumped my decision to be an actress at UCLA and started in exercise science and nutrition, and then went on to grad school and doctoral school in that. And the challenge was, I had all these clients. I was personal training my way through college and graduate school, so I could tell if what I was being taught was working or not, and it wasn't. And I literally was taught at one of my grad school nutrition classes that you could get everything you needed from a potato. I mean, and the woman teaching this, I remember sitting in the room and there were all these fit people sitting in the room, and the professor was this woman who looked like a potato. I thought, this is hilarious. You know, and she's telling us that, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to step out. And I actually dropped out of doctoral school at SC, and I started going everywhere I could. I started taking seminars, but I really started studying biochemistry, because the secret's in the pathways. And I started looking for everything that could get in the way of you losing weight or cause you to gain weight. And I started just going through all the research, and that's where it all happened. And I started to teach this workshop for doctors called Overcoming Weight Loss Resistance. It was when I was on Dr. Phil, and he had a chapter called Weight Loss Resistance. It was just about insulin, but I took it further. And so as I was teaching these, all these doctors would come and they'd teach me more. So it just kind of became a snowball. But I would say that, you know, if you really want to learn, you have to be willing to step out of the status quo, and especially, unfortunately, a lot of the schooling, because it's 10 years behind. By the time I was hired to bring nutrition into a college, and they had to do so much to get those courses in place. I'm like, that by the time these are in, they're outdated, you know? So you really realize that you have to design your own curriculum. I think the schools of the future will be with access to the coolest cutting edge people. You understand the science, and then, you know, you learn from all over the place, and most importantly, you learn from life.
So low fat, high fat, low carb, vegan, paleo. I mean, I'm confused. I think a lot of us are confused. How does one know what sort of diet to follow?
So the most, you know, when you look at like what can make a change in your health, connection, sleep are huge things, but diet, changing what's at the end of your fork, this has got to be a starting point, because for so many people, they're struggling with health issues because of the diet that they're eating. The challenge is, like, how the heck do you know what to do? And I remember way back when I literally tried everything. I did Pritikin, and I was eating 10 grams of fat a day and like fish once a week. I got so sick. And then I did macrobiotic, we call macropsychotic. I mean, I literally tried every diet. And here's what I know to be true. There's some basic tenets that we can all subscribe to. Like, we all know we need to eat more deep green leafy vegetables and more water. But the moment we get past that, it's all different. And it's going to be based on your genetics and your lifestyle and what's going on with your health. So I think that everybody, like, great starting point is to go through a food elimination diet, which is what I did with the Virgin Diet, and to start to detox your body, do a reset, and really start to feel, because this is what's important, is to be able to connect the dots between what you're eating and how you feel. Because ultimately, what diet you should be on depends on you, and it's nothing you can do a lab test for because it's changing in the moment. So you need to learn how to be your own personal health detective. So that's where I think, starting with the food elimination diet, going through that process, seeing which foods work for you and which foods don't. The next step to that is I have people go through a carb intolerance program to see how many carbs they should have. And then if you're not where you need to be, then you can go further than that. But I find for most people, once they get there, they kind of figure out which foods they should be eating, how much carbs they should be eating, etc. As far as the vegan slant, if someone wants to be a vegan because it's a spiritual issue, although then I would go, well, what about broccoli? What about plants? We're killing them. But if they're doing it because of a religious issue, then I work with them. But the most difficult diet to eat healthy is the vegan diet, especially if you get people like the French fry vegans, because you can eat a very crappy vegan diet. But the challenge with veganism is any diet where there's a natural deficiency set up, like vitamin D and, EPA and DHA, before you even get out of the gates, carnitine is problematic, B12. So I'm not a fan of a vegan diet. I like that one. I'd supplement with a little bit of like clean protein choices. But other than that, I think any of these diets can be worked into healthy, and it really depends on the person, their preferences, their lifestyle, their health, and their genetics.
You mentioned a reset. What exactly does that? How long does the reset take? I mean, are you just, when you say detox and reset, what exactly is involved in that?
Well, and I think detox is thrown around. It's a little ridiculous. Like this idea that you can go on a 7-day juice cleanse and detox is just stupid, to be honest. First off, the body doesn't detox that way. In order to detox, if you go on a juice cleanse, you made yourself worse, not better, because you actually require amino acids to get the toxins out of the body. A detox with juice, besides hijacking your blood sugar, just freed up toxins but didn't escort them out. So that's problematic. But when I think of a detox, it's kind of detoxing out some of the crap we eat on a regular basis, oftentimes thinking it's healthy. Like any of these processed, I go to this thing called Expo West each year, and it's supposedly the biggest health expo in the world, but it's loaded with processed foods, like all these soy protein foods that, it's like, that's not how the soy started. So the idea that soy ice cream is in some way healthy is ridiculous. So the first thing you do is really unprocess your diet and detoxify from all the crap that's been getting in, like these processed foods and GMOs. And and pull out the foods that we most commonly react to: gluten, dairy, soy, corn, eggs, peanuts, and lower that sugar impact. So you allow your body to do what I call a reset. And that can happen. You really see a lot in 7 days. I like to go at least 21 days to get rid of some of the immune complexes that have built up. But what we're doing during that time is getting you back to what I would call your new normal. Like, if food was really working for you, how do you feel? Because for so many people, they have no idea what feeling good really feels like. If they don't take some type of a pain medication every day, they've got headaches and inflammation that are taking them down. They need antacids, they need something to boost their energy. They need something to put them to sleep. And so what we're working on is getting you to, okay, if food was really working for you, not working against you, what would you feel like? And then we can get, and then at that point, when you've kind of cleared out and dropped the immune complexes out from the reactions to the foods, you can go back and say, all right, how does gluten work for me? How does dairy work for me? And it allows you to connect the dots between those things. The cool thing about that is it is empowering, you know, for so many people to go, I'm just going to have a little cheat day today. And if you knew that if you had a cheat day and you ate the pizza and it broke your skin out and gave you joint pain for the next 5 days, it may make you think differently about the cheat day, right?
That's interesting. You mentioned eggs in there, and I haven't heard eggs come up in any of my reading. Not that I'm a master at reading, but are eggs actually inflammatory or bad?
It depends on the person. Eggs can be one of the most amazing foods on the planet. Pastured eggs, not the factoried eggs. That if you look at a pastured egg, open it up, and then look at a factory egg, the yolk is entirely different. The yolk of a pastured egg is this bright, you know, orangey yellow, because you are not just what you ate, but you are what you ate. So you want to make sure that you've got chickens that have been fed the right food, that haven't been shot up with hormones and antibiotics. The challenge with eggs is that they can trigger autoimmune disease, and that when I was doing food sensitivity testing a lot, it was one of the top things that showed up. It was always eggs and dairy, which bummed me out because eggs to me are one of the like single best foods you can eat if you're not intolerant to them. But I think what's happened is that we use egg white protein, which is interesting because people will eat the egg whites, not the yolks. Well, you actually absorb more of the protein when you eat the yolk too, but the yolk is where all the good stuff is. So if you are not intolerant to them, I think they're an amazing food. They do tend to be one of those foods that we can react more to when we have leaky gut. And, you know, so many people end up with leaky gut due to stress and pain medications and fructose. So it's one that we have to really consider. But if you can tolerate them, pastured eggs rotated into your diet are a great thing.
So what are the most common results that your customers and clients find by following your program?
So what I'm really keen on is helping people shift out of that defeat mode into a success mode. My focus has always been weight loss resistance, the toughest weight loss cases. And so most of those people come in feeling like, this won't work, I've tried everything, you know, all that. But really all they've done over the years is followed the wrong set of rules. I mean, if you go in to try a calorie deprivation, low fat, high carb diet, you are like, I can tell you it's going to fail. You know, it's going to doom you every time. So the biggest thing that I strive to get them to have, they're coming in because they want fast weight loss. And what the research, I used to be totally against fast weight loss, but actually the research shows that people who have that big win at the beginning actually lose more weight and keep it off. So my biggest goal with a client is to get a win right out of the gate, that within the first 7 days, they notice not only that they're dropping weight where they haven't been able to for years, but that they're also noticeably feeling better. They've got better energy. The bloat went away. Their joints aren't hurting. So that even if they start to think, yeah, you know, I lost the weight, I'm fine, they're like going to stay because of how much better they feel. The big thing that I look for in a program and that I see with my clients that I really care about is I know they're coming in for fast weight loss, but I want to make sure that this continues and that they actually have now created a diet that will work for them for the long haul, that they understand how to be their own personal health detective, and that this is no longer their hobby. You know, for so many people, weight loss is a hobby, right? And they're going to try this one and that. It's ridiculous. I mean, we've got far more important things to do on the planet and far more fun things to do as a hobby than weight loss. So that's what I try to get them off of fairly quickly. And I think when you figure out how many carbs you should eat, you know, where sugar is sneaking in, when you figure out food intolerance, it's a game changer. You don't have to think about diet anymore, right? There's no good day, bad day crap going on anymore.
That's actually, I never thought of it that way. Once you realize what you're putting in your body, it becomes no longer a diet, right? Because you don't want to feel poor. What exercises or movements would you recommend that people do every single day?
So we were meant to move more. Like, I love all these tracking devices because what you measure, you can improve. But I do not include like we should park the car farther away, take the stairs, all of that stuff. We should be doing that every day. We should be doing an hour of just moving around every day. Like everybody should just get a dog. And no dog walker. My dog's lying over there. And, you know, if you don't walk her, you're going to get that look and guilt and you'll go walk her. So we need to be moving every day. And that's not exercise. In order for us to do exercise, we should get hot, sweaty, and it should hurt a bit. So while I want you to move every day, I want you to then do exercise a couple of times a week. And that's all about intensity. And early on, I used to do a lot of aerobic training with people and a lot myself. And what's interesting is I have lower body fat, lower weight, better bone density, better mood, better everything with less exercise, but higher quality, higher intensity exercise. So move more every day, take that long walk, go for the easy bike ride, do the, you know, calming restorative yoga, but a couple times a week, do burst training, high intensity interval training for about 20 to 30 minutes, all out bursts and recovery. And then a couple of times a week, at least 2 times a week for each body part, do resistance training. And those two things, the resistance training and the burst training, are really the key to de-aging.
I like it.
That's so interesting. I'm a swimmer, and I call it adult onset swimming. I started at 31. I'm now 50, and I swim against people that have swum all their life, and I'm never going to swim as many yards. But what I've noticed is the coaching. It's like the professors at universities you were talking about. They are 10 or 20, sometimes in the 1970s. The thinking, it's about yardage. And recently this happened to me where I was swimming and I was keeping up with the fastest guy in the pool doing 50s. I'm a sprinter. And then the coach says, all right, 400s. And I'm like, okay, I reach for my fins. You can't put those on. Well, if I don't put them on, I'm going to die because I can't go that long. And there's a guy that comes on the pool deck and he swims for a half an hour. The guy is ripped. He only does race pace training. He just does bursts like you're talking about. And guess what? He just qualified for the World Championships. So half an hour a day. So it translates not only to just the general population, but it translates to the elite athletes. So yeah. I just wanted to.
I love that. It was interesting. Just like I try to shift vegan diets a bit, I'll get people in who want to do marathon running. And I'm like, and in fact, when I was on Dr. Phil, the people who want to do the marathons lost the competition. And I'm like, this is not going to work. Marathon training, actually, you'll end up with the couch potato, the muscle mass of a couch potato. You blow up your muscle, you raise your stress hormones, you deplete your immune system, you make yourself better at storing fat, not burning it. It's very aging, lots of oxidative stress. Besides, who's got the time? But when I do have to work with someone who's hell-bent on doing it, I have them take down the training and do more burst training, and ultimately they do better. I hike when I go back to the desert. I live out in San Diego, but I'll go back to the desert and hike periodically with friends there who do it all the time, and I kick their butts. And I never do this. Like, I never hike. I don't do it. But I can go just like you talked about, like you kick their butts. And I remember I have a gym where I used to work out in the desert, and you'd walk down this hallway and it was glass on either side. One was the glass to the gym room and one was the glass to the cardio room. And you'd see people in that cardio room. Like, literally, I saw a woman doing a crossword puzzle on an elliptical. I go, that is not I know exactly what to do, right? Because all that endurance, the endurance training actually makes you hungrier. So I would look at those people, and for 2 years, I worked out at this gym, and the people in the weight room that were doing plyometric training, they looked amazing, and they kept getting more amazing, and the people in the aerobics room kept getting worse. And I'm like, aren't they looking in over there? Like, can't they, like, are they insane, all those people over there?
You just compare the results.
Yeah, I mean, once you see it, and it's just like you said, you look at the sprinters, the Olympic sprinters, and the Olympic marathoners. Look at the difference.
Right. Yeah. The marathoners look like they're going to die, and they're meager and they're weak. And then these sprinters are these just beefy people. Yeah, ripped. And we were designed to burst, I think, not to do marathons.
No, we were not. We were never designed. If we were doing a marathon, we were running away from something. We were already.
No kidding. Oh my! And you don't see cheetahs doing marathons. They burst and then kill the wildebeest.
All the sports are burst training, and so it's like we would have walked. We were nomadic, and then we would have like tried to run away from something if we could have. That's it.
Right. So, who has been the most influential person, mentor, teacher in your life?
You know, it's interesting. I went through this really tragic, could have been tragic, was really like the best experience of all of our lives, situation with my then 16-year-old son, where he was the victim of a hit and run and left for dead in the street. And I was launching my first New York Times bestseller at the time this was all going on. And so I literally launched that book bedside with my son in a coma. And I was running my business. And, you know, while I was, it was a crazy time doing TV, you know, just crazy. And then the next 4 years after that have been equally crazy, helping a son get through a traumatic brain injury where he had to relearn everything. He didn't know who he was, how to eat, how to tie his shoes, nothing. We started all over. And what they don't tell you, they just told me that him coming out of a coma would be ugly. They didn't tell me it'd be ugly for years. 25% of people with brain injuries try to kill themselves. It's been insane. And I wrote a book about like the mindset behind it, because so many people were like, how'd you do that? And I go, well, it's really all this, you know, mindset stuff that I've always had. But what's so crazy is I didn't remember where I learned it all. And I was actually doing an interview about 6 months ago. And they're like, where'd you learn this all? I'm like, I don't know. And then I went, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten that when I turned 30, one of my personal training clients, I was out walking the beach with her and she goes, so, you know, what do you plan to do? Like I found when I was 30, all these things transitioned for me and I started to really think about my career, my life, money. And I'm like, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm going to finish grad school. And she goes, why are you going to do that? I go, I want to make, you know, be more successful, make a bigger impact. She goes, well, when you finish grad school, I was at University of Miami. She goes, what are you going to do next? I'm going to go to doctoral school. And she goes, why? I go, well, I want to be more successful, make a bigger impact. And she said, you know, and this woman was a self-made multimillionaire. She literally grew up in a trailer park in Kansas. And she goes, you know, that's not going to make you more successful. And it was like, what? You know? And I said, it's not? She goes, nope. She goes, but I'll teach you if you want to know. And I literally I had this personal training business. I sold it. I moved into her house. And lived with her for 6 months. She was literally Mr. Miyagi. And the first thing she had me do was put a little rubber band on my wrist. Now she's going to teach me business and how to be the successful businesswoman. I'm super excited. I've literally put everything away so I can focus. And I now am wearing a rubber band, walking around. And anytime I say anything negative, I have to snap myself. And I'm writing down, you know, lists of things that I want to achieve in life. And I'm like going, when am I going to learn this? You know? And she said, until we upgrade your mindset, until you have a possibility mindset, she says, there's nothing I can teach you that's going to work. And it took about 6 months to get there. And what was so interesting is it became so much a part of me that I forgot that I ever went through that, learned it, or anything else. It's just how I live. And thankfully, it's how my 15 and 16-year-old, who are now 20 and 21, lived, because that first night in that hospital, when the doctor said, you're going to have to let him go, you know, he won't possibly be able to go through this airlift to this next hospital. And even if he did, he wouldn't survive the airlift or the surgery. And, you know, he's never going to wake up, all this doom and gloom stuff. And my other son was like, so maybe a 0.25% chance he'd make it. And the doctor said, that sounds about right. And he goes, well, we'll take those odds. So, you know, and that's just, I kind of looked over at my son and, you know, that's how my kids are. They just don't see limitations. They only see possibility. And so it's super interesting because you don't think about these things and how much they just become a part of your life.
Okay, so who comes to mind when you think of the word successful, other than yourself, of course?
Well, you know, then you have to get through like, what really does success mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, success means you left the place better than you found it. You inspired a lot of people to be able to see a bigger vision for themselves and be able to help a lot of other people. Yeah, and yet you did some really good stuff for your kids and those around you. You had great connections. And then you're just a super cool badass. And so like, I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, who the heck is that? Right. And to be honest, I really wanted to think of a woman, and there's a couple, there's one woman and there's one guy. And the guy is Richard Branson. I just think Richard Branson's like the coolest thing ever. And then the woman actually is going to be marrying me here in another couple months. And she is someone who I just think is one of the most inspirational people out there, because she's had to reinvent herself over and over again, has a great relationship with her kids, has impacted tens of thousands, probably millions actually. And that's Mary Morrissey.
Oh, great. We love Mary.
Yeah, she's one of our masters. I've got her book right here, Decision. She's awesome.
All right.
Okay, it's my turn. Oh, my turn. All right, so I think you've kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What inspired you to write Miracle Mindset? And please explain what it is.
So my son was a victim of a hit and run. He was 16 years old. He'd gone out for a walk and he got hit by a car. No one saw this. The neighbor saw a woman get out of the car and gasp and drive off. And he was airlifted to our local hospital. We get there, he's given no chance to survive. And we overruled the doctor's, the doctor's recommendation was to let him die. We overruled that, got him to an amazing hospital. But once we got him there and he survived that first surgery, that was really when the work started. And there were so many times, starting with that first night, but on and on through the last 5 years, where the success all came down to mindset. And it made me kind of look and go, well, success in life and anything always comes down to mindset. And the cool thing is, mindset actually is a muscle. And Carol Dweck talks about this at Stanford, the difference between this fixed mindset and the growth mindset. I look at fixed mindset as those victim mentality people who think life happens to you. There's nothing you can do, poor me. I avoid those people like the plague. And to me, I'm fascinated with this idea that we really are in control. We may not be in control. I was in control of someone hitting my son with a car, and I wasn't in control with him making it through it. He made it through it, but it's been touch and go. But what I was in control with was how I was reacting and responding to everything. And ultimately, those reactions and responses, saved his life repeatedly. He actually told me that the gray man came down. He had all those cool near-death experiences that I've always been fascinated by. I didn't really want to experience them like this, but they were really interesting. And he said, Mom, the gray man came down and asked me if I wanted to live or die. And it's so nice over there, and I didn't really want to come back. He goes, but I kept hearing you. I kept hearing you talk. And so I decided I'd come back. Phew. But it's like you look at that and that decision at that time, that the book, I could have easily walked away from what I was doing with business. I would have been bankrupt, but I knew that in order to do what I needed to do for my son, my decision was he was going to be better than before the accident. He was going to be 110%. I started asking that and other right questions. And by doing that, he is actually 110% now. He's better than before the accident, but it also made me was just a, waterfall of things that then had to happen. My book had to be knocked out of the park, and I had to be super successful in everything. You just do it. So when I looked at it and went, success leaves clues, I went through, well, how did I really do this? And that's a miracle mindset, is a mindset of possibility. It's a growth mindset. It really shows you that ultimately, while things are going to happen in life, you choose how you respond to them. And that can make any situation, no matter how bleak, grim, or horrible it is, one of those turning point catalyst best situations of your life. My family all regards what we went through as the best thing that ever happened to all of us. And I wanted to get that out to the world, because people are suffering, people are in pain. And I think they don't realize that there's a series of steps that you can take that can change everything about your life, and that have that power.
Wow. So the next question is, how does mindset tie into health? But it sounds like what you're saying is it ties into everything. So I just want to hear more about your philosophy about mindset, because I think it's fascinating.
I'll tie mindset into health because, again, what was interesting, and because my health, it's always been inside me and I haven't really ever thought about it after my Mr. Miyagi teaching. So when I queried my community and they told me that they didn't feel worthy, I was like, wow. And I started to look at all my programs and I realized that everything I ever do, I always start with the why, the purpose. And that people who felt like they couldn't be successful or felt like they weren't good enough or felt like they weren't pretty or someone didn't love them, they always failed. And they'd fail in a health program, but they'd fail in their career, they'd fail in their relationship. It's like that sabotaging thing. And when you look at anything that you're going to do in life, this is the starting point for anything. And I sort of sneak it in with people because, you know, people want to come in and get some kind of quick fix. They want to make more money. They want to like find their soulmate. They want to lose 10 pounds. And if you say, okay, we'll do that. First thing we're going to do is start with your mindset. They don't want to hear that. So the first thing I tell them, we're going to lose 10 pounds. I get them in and say, okay, here's where I sneak them into mindset. And once you start to do that, then they can start to accept that. But you don't want to, you got to give someone what they want and then sneak in what they need until it becomes just the new way that they live.
What is your favorite product, program, or book that you've created and why?
Well, right now I'm back in the middle of recreating the Virgin Diet and kind of our Virgin Diet 2.0. And so I still, you know, it's like I actually, it's going to sound crazy. I love all my programs. Like I love them. I love Virgin Diet because it puts the control back to the person instead of them going, I have to follow this thing. It doesn't feel right. And really helps someone become a personal health detective and get back into, you know, control. But the natural offshoot of that was to then help people with sugar because they got so bogged down with it. But I will tell you that when it really comes down to it, if I had to pick one thing that helps people the most, it's really more the mindset. I created a program for the Miracle Mindset book, and all around I did a documentary called You Are Stronger Than You Think that really takes them through the 7 lessons and the 7 key mindsets. And that's what I think lays over everything, because once you dial in your mindset, and it's not something that you dial it in and you're done. You dial it in and then you go through these exercises and you have them there when stuff happens. But you need to have them dialed because you never know when something like what happened with my son is going to hit. And that's not when you think, oh my gosh, I need to start a gratitude practice. You're not going to do it, right? Or I need to learn how to forgive. That ain't happening. So I think that if you really learn the mindset piece, it makes everything else effortless.
From all the people that you've helped, whose stories touched you the most and why?
There was a family and the mom was kind of at the end of her rope. I can't remember their names, unfortunately. But I remember she went to the doctor and the doctor told her she had to lose weight. She had had thyroid cancer. She had insulin resistance. She had all this health problems going on. And the doctor says, you have to lose weight. I mean, this is a life or death thing. But, and he literally says this to her, but losing weight for you will be like filling a wheelbarrow full of bricks and pushing it up a mountain. I'm like, why would you say that? Like,
And who wants to do that?
Imagine that. I mean, it still makes me so upset when I hear about that. And her son, she had 2 sons. One was 400 pounds and they were just desperate. And I know, like, as a mom, hey, it's like, if you're not going to do it for yourself, you do it for your kids. So, and we are our most important role models for our kids. So she had one son who was very, you know, morbidly obese. The other son was just probably 30, 40 pounds overweight. And her husband, the same, about 30, 40 pounds overweight. And she just didn't know what to do. She tried everything, nothing worked. And again, I hear this story all the time because people are following the wrong set of rules. You know, like for most of us, this isn't, our body's not a bank account. Cutting your calories like that isn't addressing the underlying cause. So what's crazy is her ex-husband is watching public television, sees my Virgin Diet Drop 7 Foods Feel Better Fast show. He and his wife go on it, and he sends this to his ex-wife. And I think, well, that was dangerous. You just sent a weight loss program to your ex-wife. Like, and then the ex-wife gets it, and now she has to explain to her then husband, who's of course the one husband, the husband and the son don't want to do it. The other son and she do it, and the morbidly obese one and the husband decide they're not going to do it. But that's all the food that's around. So then they start getting into it. The son loses, I think, 150 pounds. Collectively, we're calling them the 300-pound family because of all the weight they lost. Then, of course, the grandma lost weight. It just was crazy. But it just, it gave them their whole life back. And this was someone who had just given up. I mean, talk about giving up when your doctor tells you that. So I always love it. Back when I was a personal trainer early on, what I noticed was when I started working with one person in the family, everyone benefited. And my big dream was, how do I get this message out? Because I knew that the information out there was confusing and misleading, and oftentimes just flat out didn't work. And I thought, if people, they want to do better, and if I could just get this out to them. And it was funny because I'm a very good manifester. I'm like, I just need to get this information out to more people. And the next thing you know, I'm on Dr. Phil for 2 years doing this. So that is the big thing that I see, is that it's not easy, but it's a lot simpler than I think most people realize. And when you really understand this stuff, it becomes easy to dial in. And when you have that energy and the focus and you're out of pain, it changes everything in your life, everything.
Wow. Well, I think you understand what Masters of Possibility is. What we do is we talk to our masters. We get their perspective on their programs and their books and their general philosophies. And then we want to introduce one of their students or clients and show the results and talk to them. Are you open to us talking to one of your success stories?
Sure.
That would be fantastic. We come from a belief where, we can read this stuff all we want, right? And a lot of people still don't take action. It's like 95% of the people don't take action on it. They buy your book, which is fantastic. They read it, and a lot of people they don't.
I'd love you to talk to, I have a gal, Susan, who's literally done like every program I've had. And the Miracle Mindset, she did the Miracle Mindset Academy too. And she's just fantastic, who would be a great one that comes to mind. So yeah, absolutely. We can open up that kimono for you.
Sweet. So we'll reach out to you at a later date after the holidays for that stuff. Fletch, do you have any questions?
400 or 500 maybe, but I'll try to be a little more direct. No, I think one of the things that I guess I've come to realize a lot more later in life and kind of working in now an industry where it's about developing yourself outside of the traditional academic, kind of institutions that we have. And I think so many people are taught that you go about getting healthy by attacking this health thing directly, as opposed to creating the context, mindset, understanding that lets health just be the result of proper thinking and understanding. And it sounds like you definitely communicated that very clearly. And I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions, and why people do get into so many different diets by saying the diet's going to fix me, as opposed to I need to fix the junk I got going on in my head, improper beliefs. Not feeling worthy is a huge one. And in so doing, the health improving really, like you said, it affects every different, facet of your life. You feel better, so it's easier to make, you don't go out and directly try to make money, but you feel better, you have more energy, you're going to be easier to talk to, you're going to be happier, people are going to like talking to you more, they're going to give you more opportunities and all that kind of thing. And I think it's one of those linchpins that if you can get right, everything changes. I mean, it's not really so much a question, but just something I want to, even shine maybe some more direct light on, because you have so much direct experience with it. You've probably seen so many people go through it and be able to, relate to seeing that transformation that wasn't necessarily because they ate the right food, but because they understood they needed to do these, or they needed to think differently. And then the only thing that they could do with the different mindset is the right kind of processes.
I often find that I have to get the nose of the camel in the tent, right? You know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
Get the nose of the camel in the tent with like the big dangly carrot, the small win. Then once you've got that, then you can back them into starting to shift their mindset. And then once you've done that, the rest of it's easy.
What's been your experience with people that have gone through and maybe wanted to directly attack health and then wind up coming back to you with some kind of success or testimonial about a better career or their relationships improving? I assume that's kind of pretty common.
That's super common. And in fact, what happens with a lot of them is they then want to become coaches, nutritionists, right? That is such a classic one because they're like, oh my gosh. And in fact, we even built that into the programs now because it became part of what they all wanted to do. Next was then go help their friends. And what's really cool about that is when you do a program, let's say because we know that it's not the weight loss, it's what that weight loss is going to do for you, right? You're going to have more confidence. You'll feel better in your relationship. You'll want to go out to parties. You'll step up in your business. But once they start to do something where they're helping others, then they're not going to slide back because their whole identity is shifted. I've seen the other way too. I will tell you, early on when I was new at this and I didn't know what to expect, I had this happen in two different times when I was working with couples, where at one time the husband was sabotaging the wife, and one time the wife was sabotaging the husband. And both because, they lost weight, they were more confident, they were looking better. And I think they thought they were going to ditch him, So I was like, well, that's very interesting. So we actually did a subject. We did that on Dr. Phil because I'd had it happen in so many of my programs. And when I was on Dr. Phil, I was watching this husband and wife and I go, he's sabotaging her. We got to get this, this is going to make great TV. Right?
Yeah. I have a business partner here at the studio that big into fitness, big. I mean, he's lost like 40 pounds and he swims all the time. And he's really tackled it on his own. And his wife at the beginning was sabotaging him too. Like he's addicted to sweets. So she'd bring home cookies and do all that stuff. And I'd walk in and he'd be like, I just ate one and then I ate four. And he's like, and it's funny that you say that. I mean, it seems to be common.
Yeah, it's abusive. This one guy, oh my gosh, he was such a foodie, and she would bring him apple pie in bed. I'm like, that is just And I remember walking into their house. They lived in Brentwood, massive estate, and I walk in, and he's like, I'm telling her, and then I'm like going, I am not a marriage counselor. Like, I did not sign up.
Apple pie in bed. That is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
And I had another one where the wife was no longer allowed to work with him because she was getting too confident and strong. I was like, wow, bummer,
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out. That kind of wraps up all of our questions. It was fantastic to talk to you. You're a marvelous person. Have a great 4th of July. Guys, do you have anything else for JJ?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. This was a great way to spend some time this morning. I'm going to probably go home and clean out my cupboards a little bit. Set the stage for success a little more for my 3 daughters. So, yeah.
Hey, my kids, I was never a pusher about it because then they'll rebel. I still remember in high school, we had that one mom who wouldn't let her kid have anything, and she'd come to my house and eat all the stuff that I could care less about. But I always had the good stuff out there and, made that first and foremost. And they're both total health guys now.
That's great.
It worked. Great. I wasn't obnoxious about it either. I just was trying to help my one son realize, you eat pizza, you get migraines. No, I don't. I'm like, yeah, I don't think about that. So
it is funny. And I didn't realize this until Mick actually just started a program about sugar. I just didn't realize it. And then when I eat pizza, this is all new to me. My joints hurt. and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, gluten is so inflammatory. So, and the problem is when you're eating pizza, you're going to get some fructose from the tomato sauce that makes your gut leakier, and then the gluten makes your gut leakier, and then you're just going to react more to the dairy and gluten in there. So it's just a catch-22.
Yeah, I got to ride it off for a while. I'm going to do that. I'm taking your advice. I'm going to detox and eat clean.
Well, just do you have the books? We'll send them to you.
I don't, but I will definitely read them. Yes.
Just give me, send me an email with addresses, and I'll send you the stuff.
Oh, great.
Wow, that's great.
You guys should have goodie boxes of shakes and bars and all sorts of stuff.
That would be great. Well,
I'm
JJ,
excited. I know this goes to the mental thing, but I go on my weekly vacation next week, so I really didn't want to start until.
You should have had this interview after you came back.
That's ridiculous. So you're going to.
I know.
And be like, even where are you going on vacation?
We just go up to a lake called Pinecrest up above Sonora. We barbecue and we do all that kind of stuff. My family, they're not the healthiest eaters. I've
been to Pinecrest, but so barbecue salmon and chicken and grass-fed beef, and have a salad. What's hard here? You can do this. Don't be.
I love man up. Don't be a bitch, as Mick says. Love it.
I do. Come on.
I'm doing
guns. Guns.
Awesome. So nice to talk to you. Seriously.
Thank you, JJ. I wanted to say that one of the things that we want to do is we want to have a dialogue where we want to continue the conversation. So from this, what Jeff and Fletcher and I are going to be doing is we're going to be reviewing this, going through all this stuff, and it's going to create questions that we want to do follow-up. So we'll probably reach out to you at some point in the future and try to do another one of these. And now that you know who we are and kind of what we're about, as Masters of Possibility is growing, and we're pitching it to networks and that kind of stuff. So as it's growing, we're going to try to get as many questions answered as we possibly can. We have a lot.
The update real quick for you is Netflix was interested in it. Reels wants it. They're willing to book. It's not necessarily our audience. So we met with Bob Greenblatt last week, was it? Or the week before. And he gave us a few other sister networks to pitch it to. So we're still moving forward, and we're pretty confident that.
I don't even know which networks are who's watching what anymore. It's such a free for all at this point,
Yeah. One of the networks that we think is really cool is MSNBC, which not a lot, but some of the news channels are starting to do some interesting programming outside of just news 24/7. So, but we'll keep you posted on all that. We're gonna keep pressing, and we'll keep you in the loop on.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Happy 4th.
Thank you. See ya.
Take care.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.